Let's move on and discuss the deal President Obama announced to try to contain Iran's nuclear ambitions. Governor Scott Walker says he would rip up this deal on day one. Governor Jeb Bush says the next president would actually have to consult with his cabinet and allies before throwing the deal out. What would President Marco Rubio do?
Well, I think what people have to understand is that the American portion, the U.S. portion of the sanctions were passed by Congress. They are in the law today. The way the president is going to lift those sanctions is by the use of a national security waiver. The next president of the United States simply has to undo the use of the waiver, and the sanctions are already in place, and they would be reinstated. And that's what I would do as president. You don't need to have a cabinet fully formed to do that. In fact, I'm telling everyone now that I'm elected president of the United States, we will not use the national security waiver to hold back U.S. sanctions against Iran. Especially not as a result of this flawed deal that he is pursuing.
The deal, as you point out, lots of people can poke holes in it. Lots of people can point out flaws. The Obama administration says, what's the alternative? They argue that this deal and the sanctions depend upon international cooperation. The Russians and Chinese were already talking about getting rid of sanctions. Is it not possible that this is simply the best deal any American president could have gotten?
No, I don't think that's true. I think that the sanctions were actually forcing Iran to the table. I think we should have asked for a lot more. This deal violates promises the president made to the American people on multiple fronts. It is not an anytime, anywhere inspection system. It is an inspection process that will require arbitration over a 24-day period or longer that Iran can fight against and delay things. It actually doesn't have a snapback provision. It says if in fact sanctions are ever reimposed because Iran violates the constricts of this deal, any of the contracts that are already in place get to stay. It'll only be sanctions on future contracts. So it doesn't have a real snapback provision. It also, by the way, requires us to help Iran technically, economically, develop themselves as a country and become a stronger regional power. That undermines our relationships with our Arab allies in the region and, of course, the state of Israel. And we could spend all day going through the different dynamics of this deal and how it doesn't go nearly far enough, and I think almost guarantees that there will now be an arms race in the Middle East.
But what would President Rubio do if allies didn't agree with it, which is what it sounds like the Chinese and Russians, the position they were taking? Would you impose sanctions on China or India for not sanctioning Iran?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't call China and Russia allies. And second, our foreign policy as a nation is not subject to what China wants to do or Russia wants to do or the EU wants to do or anybody wants to do. We have our own foreign policy. It needs to be in the national security interest of the United States. I would never have entered this negotiations unless we understood up front that Iran was going to stop enrichment activities, was going to stop their ballistic missile capabilities, and was going to stop sponsoring terrorism. And none of these conditions have been met. And so now $150 billion is going to be delivered to the Iranian regime, which they will use a substantial portion of it to arm and support Hezbollah, to help Assad, and to help them carry out all sorts of terrorist activities. This to a government that has the blood of over 1,000 American servicemen in their hands because they were the ones building the IEDs that killed a bunch of Americans in Iraq less than a decade ago.